Hello, everyone. It's Alicia Lomas here.
And this is Justine, and together we are Woo Manufacturing. Today, I kind of have thoughts mulling around in my head about my first experience out of college working and how I got into the startup grind and how it was so infectiously motivating and how I got so into working there. And I was just trying to reflect on why this was the case for me and why this is kind of the case for a lot of people working at startups, especially younger people starting out or people who are just kind of career focused and have been serially working at startups and just go all the time. So, kind of like what makes these companies so alluring and why we end up working so hard for them. I just kind of been thinking about it.
I love this topic, especially for myself being someone that really didn't know startups until pretty far into my career. And now it's been kind of my thing for the last 5 years ish. So I think there's lots to talk about here because it's a whole different animal. And it's almost like you're in the twilight zone if you come from regular industry, but it's alluring, as you said.
Yeah, actually, this is really cool because I didn't even think about that because when we started crossing paths, you had already lived a lot more known experience than me, and I was kind of raised in this area. I mean, I'd had other internships and experiences, but um I hadn't been working as like my career start. And I suppose that's a good way of starting out because one of my internships was at a company that was really well established and they'd been at the same site for like over 60 years and making the same product. So it felt very um, safe and very not I don't wanna use the word stagnant because that's not really fair because they were doing stuff every day, but it was very just, like, slow turnover, and people weren't necessarily trying very hard to move anything forward because the process had been pretty comfortably established, so there wasn't much more, like, tweaking and perfection to be done, or at least the motivation didn't feel like it was there, and I was so pent up. I was like, I want to do more with my day. I don't really want to just clock in, clock out. I don't really want to spend the first 15 minutes of this meeting chit chatting. I'm like, what are we doing today? So,
Yeah. No, it's such a different environment. It's funny that you kinda called that out. I was waiting for you to say boring, but you
yeah.
said stagnant, but and I think in some industries, sometimes going slow is the way it needs to be, but
Sure.
I remember I got hired on at jet.com and then all of a sudden they got sucked up by Walmart, but the big thing that they always told me was that Walmart is a big yacht that just moves really slow, but moves, and it's a big beast of a thing, but if you try to turn it, it's gonna take some time, where Jet.com is like this speedboat just, like, running circles around the yacht, and I always thought that was really funny.
Mm. No, that's a great analogy because it's kind of like maybe it just has to, for baseline, like the people who are drawn to a startup working environment do want their work to be impactful and they do want to do work in a day. They're just like, maybe you're just personally a really motivated person. And you also want to have stake in the game because that's piece of what I've always liked about at a startup. You aren't really pigeonholed to a job because there's like too few people working there to not do a lot of different tasks. It's like
Yep,
the classic I wear a lot of hats
all
because
that.
there's just so much to get done. So you have a lot of like autonomy, which is really, I don't know. For me, I've really liked it. Like my favorite managers have always been pretty do what you need to do and you can reach me whenever if you hit a wall or you need my name on something. And like
Yeah.
besides that, I don't really like being told what to do. So, um So
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's the autonomy, but it's also you're wearing all the hats and you're not staying in your lane because you've gotta do everybody else's job. You might not have somebody
Mm.
in that role yet, so now you're taking on mechanical design or whatever that looks like, so that's all very exciting as well.
And so, I mean, that kind of explains why we might have ended up at a startup. And then next thing that I'm kind of trying to noodle on is like, why why did I let it in so far? You know, I had no boundaries with work. I was on my phone and on call all the time. Even if you
Yep.
took time off, you weren't really away. I distinctly remember getting calls while I'm like at Thanksgiving vacation, not even in the same state as the company that I work for.
Yep.
And I'm answering the calls and I'm just trying to sit there and I'm wondering why where did my almost like devotion come from for this place? Like where did that come from?
Yeah, and I definitely wanna hear your thoughts on that because for me, I kind of have been that way with my career a lot. Being in controls, you end up having to be on call for the code that you wrote or the system that you know, it kinda just naturally happens.
Mm. Mhm.
So, I've always had where they're calling me when I'm on vacation or with my family or whatever, but I would agree the startup world was that, but on steroids,
Mhm.
and it was more like life or death feeling to me.
Yeah, like, you felt so compelled to answer the phone. You
Or
like,
you're yeah,
there
or
was
you're
no
gonna
other
get in
option.
trouble, there's like the we're not gonna meet our goals, what you're gonna let all these people down. I mean, it got deep.
Yeah, but I never felt like there was a true personal threat. I mean, we were in production, so if production is down and you're 24/7, there's, like, monetary costs to not having the equipment running. There's instances where the equipment doesn't do well because we were doing a hot process in some things, so you literally can't let it cool off. So there's some timeliness there, but I didn't ever fear like growth repercussions or personal repercussions. It's almost just I felt so maybe it was like the mission of the company I cared about. It's because we were doing this thing that I thought like really needed to get done. And it was so the idea of it was grandiose and the idea that we were doing the right thing for the trajectory or the trajectory of society that we just had to it almost became like frenzied. Like we have to get this done. We have to do it. We have to do it now. We have to do it under these ridiculous timelines.
Yeah, I unfortunately had a little bit of the fear, the threat because
Mm,
it well, I was a director, and if my team wasn't giving people the answer they wanted, then I would get calls from 10 other VPs or the founder, barking up my tree, telling me
mm.
my team's sucking and shit like that. So, it was kinda bad. I'm not gonna
Okay.
lie.
Yours was
But
explicit. That wasn't the case for me because that is clearly like a threat. It's clearly expressive.
but I will agree that I don't think that I fell into this mission is more important than me until I was really in it and I had contributed and I had seen some things. And then I kind
Mm,
of switched to, okay, yeah, this is a big deal. We do have to be first to market. That's why they're having us work these crazy schedules. And then after a certain period, it was like, wait, there's never a break. Everything's an emergency.
yeah.
That can't be right. Something's not right. Something's weird here.
Yeah, like the argument that we need to push so hard right now because we need to get our ideas out there before other groups kind of swoop in and take over available resources or available opportunities. That kind of makes sense until you're on like year 2 of them saying that and you say, So when's the push? Like you keep moving the goalposts. When's the push gonna end?" And the answer is kind of never. And like the repercussions of that is that at least at this particular company, there was a huge turnover of talent. They were really smart and capable and hardworking people who just got chewed up
Yep.
because they either did what the company told them to do or motivated them to do and gave so much that they burned out, or they were aware of how things actually work in the real world and the timelines that are reasonable and safe, especially for new breaking ground and making a new building to code, or putting a new process out that is checked. um, and they were unwilling to put their name on something that was just like so scrappy, as we like
Yep.
to call it, which is just another word for like cheap and haphazard.
Yep.
um so that's where it becomes like, I mean, I didn't last very long in the grand scheme of things. I ended up leaving the company um just because personally I gave too much, and I didn't set appropriate boundaries. I also held myself to personal standards and responsibilities that probably weren't realistic. Um, but yeah, it's like I was looking at it, and I think the main thing that was frustrating for me is like, it doesn't have to be this way. Like, why is it this way? But it wasn't just the company we worked at. It was like, it was all of them. It was
Yeah.
all these fast growth technology companies that like this tech push and this grind, and a lot of young engineers and a lot of well experienced engineers were like pushing on it. And I'm like, why are
Yep.
we working like this? So why are we doing this?
We're gonna give you really good snacks, but we're going to
We're
ask you to sell your soul and
gonna give you
have
snacks
more
so you
life.
don't leave for dinner.
Yeah, because every big upgrade's gonna happen on a Friday evening at 6 p.m. is when it's gonna get started,
Oh
and
my
no,
god.
I
And
think the
all the
other
equipment's gonna start by being run by the engineers because it's so complexly arranged, and no one kicked any of the tires, and we didn't plan for commissioning, so the engineers are gonna have to run all the equipment while we start. Oh, and by the way, we're
exactly.
going 24/7 today. You're
Yep.
like, "What's wrong with you people?" I'm gonna
But I
text you on the
think
hour every hour that I'm awake, but when I'm asleep, I'm not gonna respond. It was like, "Fuck you guys."
I know. It was pretty out of control. But I mean, I look back and I think of younger engineers and people that didn't have so many years of experience being given just insane responsibilities. And with that is a lot of stress. It's a lot of late hours. But damn, that's cool for your career.
Oh, it
You're being
is.
asked to design and build something from scratch that you've never done before. It's questionable whether you have the right leadership to kind of help you and mentor you and support you. So, you do what you can to talk to the people around you and figure shit out. Just order everything off of McMaster and Granger and go. But I mean, in all seriousness, I have some old engineers that I worked with, young ones that were interns that wanted to go work for an Elon company, and they were scared to tell me because gross. But but I mean, in all seriousness, I think it would be a great experience for a young engineer. It's again questionable whether you have good leadership, but you get to learn so much in a short period of time, and that level of responsibility allows you to either sink or swim. And now I feel bad for people that have to sink under those conditions, but if you swim, you swim. And yeah, maybe you learn some stuff that isn't quite right, but you grow really, really fast. So that I think was a big draw for a lot of the younger engineers to come to those types of companies.
I guess that's a good point because you do hold a lot of responsibility, and you do make a big impact right away. And that's such a confidence builder.
Yep.
And building confidence is something that is done through time. And at an accelerated job, it's like an accelerated time frame
Yep.
that you get those experiences. So that is
Yep.
valid. But
So
I don't know,
why
it
did
just
we let them why did we let them allow us to not have our lives and have appropriate boundaries? Like what was behind that,
so
psychologically speaking?
okay, so that's where I'm getting to, and I almost feel, and this might be like an exaggeration, but it almost feels like a cult where you're like,
Mhm.
when you ask a cult survivor, well, why'd you let them do that? It's like you have no context as to what that person was daily experiencing that they got to that point. Like, it doesn't start crunchy and uncomfortable. It starts with, like, a lot of
Yeah.
community, and the people you're working with are super rad, and the project
Yep.
you're working on, you actually give a shit about, and the work that you do actually makes a difference, and people are appreciative of your work. And then eventually it turns into somebody has a really hard project, and they're there till 8 p.m., and you're not gonna leave them alone in the trenches, so you're gonna get down there, and you're gonna get the work done, because if you can work alongside them, maybe they can go home at 7:30 instead of 8:30. And
Yep.
then it ends up spiraling into, like, you're the person who's staying there up till 9 p.m. because you have the responsibility of these projects. And every step of the way felt like a very reasonable ask. And no one ever asked you to stay. It's just everybody else was still there.
Yeah.
And so you were kind of like, well, I'm the asshole if I leave.
Yeah.
And then eventually you and I are reflecting later, asking, like, why did I let them do that? And I was like, I
Yeah.
don't think it was me. I think I was part of a cult. Like, and I didn't think it was gonna happen because it didn't happen the way that you think it would, where it's just so obvious. And it's not obvious when
I
you
know.
start small and you really put your name on it. And then it suddenly they've taken so much and you've freely given way more.
I know. It's true. Like, we started out with such a small team. Everybody, including the founder, could all be in the same circle while we were talking about what the project we're working on.
Mm.
And, we were all invested. Every single one of us had a piece in it. And so they built up this sense of community, like you said, and this sense of purpose. And I am a crucial link in this chain.
Mhm.
And then it would never felt like it was asked of me or I even had a choice whether I was gonna stay or not. It was just a given. It didn't matter. I canceled vacations, all that because this has to be done and I'm the only one that can do it kinda thing. So, yeah, I mean,
Mhm.
it's really deep and it gets into your psyche. It's crazy.
And it didn't like, it doesn't once again, it doesn't feel like I was trapped. It didn't feel like I had no other options. I just, like, didn't once think of a different way.
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, this is just how it gets done. I
But
do it.
I know. I
That's
mean,
how it gets done. I do
it's
it."
it's crazy too because the force that was pulling us in was also the ones that would allow us to unlock more resources or change the schedule, the timeline, and all that.
Mhm.
So, I mean, how calculated is this? Or did these startup people learn this from someone else? Is it meant to kind of suck us in and make us burn out? Like, that's what I want to know.
I mean, I think it's really just like a means to an ends, right? Like, they wanna move it forward, and the people who were spinning the story of what we're doing is making a difference in the world, so how we get it done, as long as we get it done as quickly as possible, it will justify what we did, right? Because we're saving the planet, or we're doing this, or we're doing that, right? And because we're saving the planet, it's okay that we burnt through a bunch of young engineers. It's okay that we upset some people. It's okay that we screwed over contractors. It's okay that we had these young kids do 24 like these 26-hour shifts and get super
Mhm.
exhausted, right? It's okay that these things happen because we made the progress that needed to happen to help the world be a better place. And it becomes like a whole
Yeah.
justification. And I don't think it's a coinky dink that this narrative has happened multiple times and these high achieving companies have found a way of getting things done by underpaying people, promising the payout of stocks eventually, which was a carrot that was dangled as well. Oh,
Yeah.
we'll give you stock options because that will be worth something someday to somebody. But if you don't push hard enough, we won't succeed and your stock options won't mean anything.
Right.
Right. So it's like, okay, that's another layer of sunk costs that I'm willing to invest.
Yeah.
And it was just I don't I think it's I don't think that they spend a lot of time thinking about, "Are we being bad people?" Because that's a hard thing to think about when you're at the top, but it is, like, is this an effective means of getting things done? And I think yes. I think a lot gets done. We did.
It's been
We
proven
never
over and over
delivered on
again.
the original. Huh? Sorry.
I was just gonna say it's been proven over and over again. Stuff does get done. You're
Exactly.
right.
It's like keeps happening. So so there's a feedback saying like even if you ask for a timeline, so say you have a project that should take a year and a half normally, and you say we're doing it in 6 months and you get it done in 8 months, everyone pushing forever to get it done in that 6 months are going to feel like failures, but you're stoked at the top. You won't let them know, but you're stoked because that should have taken a year and a half.
Yeah. No, it's true.
And then you
Yeah,
move
the
the bar
amount of
forward
stuff
for the next project, and it's fucking
yeah.
bullshit.
The amount of stuff you get done and are able to look back on, "Holy crap, we just did that in under a week," or, "We just did that in 3 months, and it should have been a year project." It's wild.
It is wild, and I think the main thing that's weird is that, like, your sense of accomplishment was never expressed, like, there was never a celebration of the wins fully because
No,
there's always
never.
so much more to do, but you did feel like the people around you were, like, proud of you somehow because you know what
Yeah.
they put in to get there, and they know explicitly, like, what you put in.
Yep.
So your
I
peers, like,
felt
helped you.
Yep, I felt accomplished in a lot of ways, even if leadership didn't stand back and say, "Yeah, good job," and it never felt like we got to celebrate. It was always on to the next thing,
No.
and, or we would get something done. It was some shiny milestone, but it didn't mean shit about shit. I mean, it wasn't getting us anywhere. It was just some fancy milestone that made them happy. But it
Mm.
did and so that would always mess with me. Sometimes I'd feel good about it, but sometimes I wouldn't because I'm like, "This meant nothing. Yeah, sure, we got this thing to turn, but that's not even close to where we need to get." So then I work harder.
Yeah. Well, and then, I mean, I think the teams, at least I can think of certain instances, I think the teams did celebrate because I think when you see, like, the light leave the eyes of the people around you, you're like, "Let's go have a beer and eat some pizza and say, like, let's reflect on the week and acknowledge that we did astronomical
Yeah.
things this week," right? But it was very short bursts of celebrations because ultimately, like, you had to grind again. You
Yep.
almost couldn't leave you couldn't float around in the happy accomplishments phase because you needed to be in the anxiety driven, like, superhuman pulling too much weight phase.
Yeah.
Or there were some people who were healthy about it and they acknowledged, like, some of these things are not in my control. They can ask for something and I will do what is plausible and reasonable, and I will put my name on things that make sense, and things that are unsafe or are unreasonable, I'm going to let other groups manage them because I'm not going to put my name on it.
Yeah.
And I think that that was a healthy way of managing it for them. I think it was a bit of a cop out way to try and move the company forward because, frankly, I think that the company should have moved in a more ethical way, and I think it takes a lot of voices and effort to make sure that that happens.
I wanted to make one comment about the whole share thing. I really didn't know much about shares, and they gave
Mm,
me shares, and I'm like, "Okay, cool," but I totally treated it like monopoly money. But then when I was hiring people and people were getting all worked up about the shares, I'm like, "Oh, I guess this is kind of a big deal."
yeah. Yeah. Because it is I think it also depends, right? Because if you're small and you're just saying, "We're gonna be worth something someday," you're like, "Uh-huh, yeah." And then if you drum up enough hype and you do start to feel something, because that's actually a complaint that I have is that, um right before I was leaving when the company was less small, I felt like a lot of people who were being hired had a lot to say about what the shares are going to be worth someday. And it
Mhm.
felt very much like people who have already played this startup game before and won a big enough fish in the pond that they were like, oh, I'm going to skim off the top here, right? Like, I'm going to ride this rocket to the top. I don't understand what this company is promising. And I was like, no, 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 no. You need to work, boy. Like, you got to go. There's like so much more to get done before that's even plausible. But they
Right.
believe the like hype machine that says, like, oh, yeah, we're going to be big. And you're like,
Yep.
"Okay, but we're not there yet, so don't count anything until we're there."
Exactly. No, it's so true. And I wanted to touch on one other thing that I think kept me longer than probably my mental health should have allowed, and that's when I grew a team. So it got to a point where I had 30 people working for me, and even though I knew that I probably needed to move on, I just felt like I needed to be there to protect my team, to see
Mhm.
these things through, be there for my team. And so that was one thing that kinda held me on a whole lot longer. I just wanted to point that out because people are everything.
Yep. No, that's a good point, and especially because you grew your team and you're like, "I brought other people to that I uprooted other people's lives to physically move here." I think that's a piece of it, like, when I moved for this job, I didn't have any other form of community, and so I also had less excuses, quote unquote, to not work, right? Like I didn't have dependents, I didn't have family there, I didn't
Yeah.
have anything else to do, right? And so if you as a manager pulled in people from other places and they displaced their lives to be there, that's pretty impactful.
Yeah.
Um, so there's a bit of obligation to your
Th
team that makes total sense.
There's a sense of responsibility, and I would say
Yeah.
probably 80% of the people moved from other states because there just wasn't that big of a pool of people doing what we needed them to be doing. And there were even people on other teams that I would talk to multiple times before they accepted, because I don't know if they just saw that I'm gonna tell it like it is, but I remember one certain mechanical engineer I talked to like 5 different times before he accepted, and then I'm like, "Oh, man, now I really roped him in. Now I can't leave him."
Oh, he's like, "I'm only here because of you, man." You're like,
Dang
"I'm
it. I'm so
sorry."
sorry. But yeah, I definitely after leaving still felt the pull to go to another startup because I
Mhm.
love building stuff from scratch. So that was the initial pull for me. I really didn't know much about startups. I didn't care that it was a startup. I just knew that I was going to be the first one hired for controls, and I was going to build out a team, and we were going to build factories. And that was where I wanted to be in my career at that time. So that really sucked me in. So I was a little bit shocked at some of the things I learned about how startups operate and lived through it. But I really loved the autonomy. I loved being able to make decisions quickly, no bureaucracy, all of that kind of stuff. But yeah, it
Yeah.
really did suck my soul overall. And I lost parts of my being and I wasn't taking care of myself, and I
Mhm.
could get up so quickly at 2 a.m. and answer a call and get online and tell them what the answer is, but it
Uh,
wasn't great for me, and there's still recovering happening from some of that.
for sure. And I mean, it's like it's not all startups, obviously, but some of the really, um, aggressive growers and the fast technology, it just there's kind of an interesting playbook that's being used that there is legitimate toll on the people working there to make these fantasies realistic. Um, and yeah, it's just a very curious thing. There's certain it always feels like there's a lot more psychology behind it than what I would admit at first. And it's
Yeah.
just sometimes I reflect on it. It's like, yeah, that was a lot.
No, I'm really glad you brought up this topic because it's one that I've thought about a lot, and I think there's gonna be a lot of people out there that have a lot to say about it, so
For sure. Yeah. And it's not everyone's experience. I'm sure even other people in the same place. So, but
well, it was great chatting.
yes, likewise. I'm glad that we got to talk on this.
Bye, everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.